In this lesson, we're going to learn a little bit more about intervals in minor keys, and especially about counts of intervals in minor keys. In our treatment of it, is going to be a pretty short and straightforward topic, although as you'll see, it has the potential to kind of explode in unpleasant ways. Now, if we take the natural minor scale, obviously this has the same interval content as the major scale because it's just another diatonic scale. It's just the same patterns of wholes and halves. We simply pick a different starting point. Things get more complicated, of course, in the new versions. So if I go to harmonic minor, all of a sudden, if I'm talking interval counts, I've got an additional major third, I've got an additional tritone, I've got an additional major sixth, I've got an additional major seventh. So all of my counts could get really complicated, and I'm not going to worry about that. All I'm going to focus on is the intervals that you don't get at all in regular diatonic scales. And let me actually start with the melodic ascending scale. Whoops. No, I'm not going to start with melodic ascending. I'm going to back up a sec. I am going to start with harmonic. Okay. What new intervals have we got? Well, the only new intervals will be ones involving scale degree 7, right? That's plain. And most of these, all of those intervals that I just mentioned that we have a few more of involving these notes, those are intervals that already existed in the scale. So I'm not going to worry about those. Which are the intervals that didn't exist before in the scale? Well, we've already talked, here, I'll write it. Sometimes you use plus for augmented. I'm going to write it out the way we usually do. We've got an augmented second that we've already talked about between scale degree 6 and scale degree 7. So of course that means that we also have the potential of a diminished seventh, simply by inverting that. The other new interval is here, from scale degree 3 up to scale degree 7, we now have an augmented fifth. Diminished seventh, diminished fourth, okay? So those are two intervals that you're never going to get in a major scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 6, 7, 6, 7. There's the augmented second. And then 5, 4, 3, 3, 7. Do you hear the strain there? 3, 7. Now if I just dot, dee, dot, dee, dot, dee, dot, dee, dot, dee, that may, if you can lose enough context, dotty, dotty. If you can lose enough context, dotty, 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 may start to sound to you like a minor sixth. But in this context, dee, dotty, dotty, dee, 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 da, da, dee, da, dee, dee, da, dee, da, da, dee, ba, ba, be, da, ba, ba, dee. In this context, that's a very strained, augmented, dissonant interval, not a consonant minor sixth. It's very different. As it happens, if you remember, if we go back to Crazy Train and bottom, 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 so 1, 1, 3, subtonic 1, 6, subtonic 1. You remember our Bach version of that? As it happens, that features both of these diminished version intervals. Not coincidentally, as we'll learn later, that we use the diminished version and not the augmented. But we've got 1, 3, leading tone. So up a minor third, down a diminished fourth. Listen to that diminished fourth. Without context, it starts to sound like a minor third. Sorry, it starts to sound like a major third, but if we've got context, 1 minor third, diminished fourth, minor second, minor sixth, diminished seventh, minor sixth, diminished seventh. Without context, could start to sound like a major sixth, but with the context, 1 minor sixth, diminished seventh, 1, dee da da dee da da. We get those unusual intervals that only appear in altered forms of the minor scale, okay? So those are the two new intervals that we get. Now, going to the melodic minor scale, that really doesn't add anything. It takes away, of course, our augmented second. We fixed that. We haven't fixed this. We still have the augmented fifth, but all of the other intervals are intervals that you will find in a major scale. Most of them even in the same place, because a lot of those notes are just the same as in major. It's just that we've now got a tritone where we used to have a perfect fourth between scale degrees 3 and 6. But it doesn't change our, it changes our counts and our locations, but not our basic population of intervals.